My heart smiles as I bask in their legacies, knowing their lives have altered many destinies. In her eyes, I see my mother's poise. In her face, I glimpse my auntie's grace. In this case of deja vu, a 19th century question comes into view. In a time when Sojourner Truth asked, "Ain't I a woman?" Today, we pose this question to new powers, making bets on artificial intelligence, hope towers. The Amazonians peek through windows blocking deep blues as faces increment scars. Old burns, new urns, collecting data chronicling our past, often forgetting to deal with gender, race, and class. Again, I ask, ain't I a woman? Face by face, the answers seem uncertain. Young and old, proud icons are dismissed. Can machines ever see my queens as I view them? Can machines ever see our grandmothers as we knew them? Ida B. Wells, data science pioneer, hanging facts, stacking stats on the lynching of humanity, teaching truths hidden in data, each entry and omission, a person worthy of respect. Shirley Chisholm, unbought and unbossed, the first Black Congresswoman, but not the first to be misunderstood by machines well-versed in data-driven mistakes. Michelle Obama, unabashed and unafraid to wear her crown of history, yet her crown seems a mystery to systems unsure of her hair. A wig, a bouffant, a toupee, maybe not. Are there no words for our braids and our locks? Does relaxed hair and sunny skin make Oprah the first lady? Even for her face well known, some algorithms fault her, echoing sentiments that strong women are men. We laugh, celebrating the successes of our sisters with serena smiles. No label is worthy of our beauty. Hi, I'm Joy, the poet of code on a mission to show compassion through computation. I tell stories that make daughters of diasporas dream and sons of privilege pause. You just saw AI, Ain't I a Woman, where I posed Sojourner Truth's 19th century question to 21st century algorithms. And as we saw, some of these systems are on the struggle bus. And what we saw is a reflection of something that I call the coded gaze. Now, you might have heard of the male gaze or the white gaze or the post-colonial gaze. Well, to that lexicon, I add the coded gaze, and it's a reflection of the preferences and sometimes also prejudices of those who have the power to shape technology. So I encountered it in a literal way while working on a project where I needed to put on a white mask to have my dark skin detected. Now, Fanon already said it, past his prologue, right? Black skin, white mask. I just didn't think it would be so literal. So I shared this experience of coding in a white mask on the TED platform. And I thought, you know what? People might check my claims. Let me check myself. I ran my TED profile image through a number of commercial AI services, and I found that some didn't detect my face, and the ones that did, well, they misgendered me. This did give me something in common with the women of Wakanda. So my fellow highly melanated sisters also ran into some algorithmic misclassification. If you see these red rows, right, beyond gender, this is age. So it's algorithmically verified Black don't crack. But why is it that we see systems seeming to struggle with faces like mine? Well, we get a bit of insight into this in Olay's new campaign, Decode the Bias. I'm so excited to be the spokesperson for this campaign. And it really looks at algorithmic bias through a beauty lens and how when we search for certain terms, we see white or Western standards of beauty portrayed more often than, let's say, women of color. So this example, including the example of coding in a white mask and all of that, these are different ways in which we see coded bias in society. And it goes further. So for example, we have instances of real world algorithmic harms, right? So AI systems being part of investigations that lead to false arrest. And so the implications of where it can go when AI goes wrong can be quite consequential. And this is not just looking at the criminal justice space or looking at individuals, but you have individual and collective societal harms that can result from algorithmic decision making. And so because of this is why I started the Algorithmic Justice League, where we're building a movement towards more equitable and accountable AI. So part of that work is raising awareness through talks like this or media like you saw with AI Ain't I a Woman. We're also working on how we build the voice and choice of those who are most impacted by these systems, oftentimes the Black community and other communities of color. And then we think about how do we equip advocates so that they have the empirical research as they're pushing for change. And all of this is really on the foundation of research that I started at MIT. And so this research has come to be known as gender shades, where I started to explore how different commercial AI systems analyzed faces and looked at the differences. And so I was really excited to be able to publish this widely read academic paper with my dear friend and sister, Dr. Timnit Gebru. And long story short, what we found, which might not be so surprising, is these systems overall work better on lighter faces than darker skinned faces. They work better overall on male labeled faces than female labeled faces. And then when you did the intersectional breakdown, right, what we saw was the worst performance on faces like mine, the faces of women of color. I then worked with Deb Raji on a follow-up study where we saw similar results. And so this isn't an issue that's just for any one company. And part of my work as a poet of code is thinking through how do you translate research and put it into action. And so for me, one thing that has been really exciting is seeing different communities and people on the ground using the research that I've done with my fellow face sisters to push back on harmful uses of AI systems, and in particular, facial recognition systems that aren't wanted by communities where they are introduced. Another way of putting research into action, right, is through direct advocacy. And so I've been really fortunate to share the research and also the implications of the research at a number of congressional hearings, and even had the opportunity to brief then Senator Harris, and now, of course, Vice President Harris, on some of these issues. And so I am hopeful we also have an administration that is really looking at how do we make sure that as AI systems are being introduced, we're tending to potential harms. And putting research into action also involves art. As you saw, this section, it starts with AI Ain't I a Woman, and part of the reason of bringing in the art is really to humanize the cost, the human stakes at cost when we're talking about seemingly neutral or dispassionate systems. And then also using the media, campaigns like Decode the Bias, and also the film, the documentary Coded Bias, which is available on Netflix right now, if you'd like to see a little bit more of my journey of going from grad student coding in a white mask to what I'm doing now. And so I highly encourage anybody who is thinking about getting into AI or exploring the harms of tech to really think about how you can speak up against issues that you see, even when people don't first understand it. So that video I started with the coding in a white face, right? That was from about 2016. And so 5 years later, this is now a conversation that many more people are having, but it took a lot of persistence. It also took a lot of courage, because at that time, people are like, what do you mean machines can see? What are you talking about bias in machines? And so to see where the conversation has moved from that point until now really gives me hope, right? In the importance of going after things that are important to our communities, even if the mainstream doesn't initially get it at first. And so I hope you also take the courage in doing the same in your own work. And if you're interested in the ongoing fight for algorithmic justice, check out AJL.org and follow our various social media handles. So I want to just leave you with this. If you have a face, you have a place in the conversation about how AI systems impact all of us. Thank you.